Hey, everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking to my longtime friend from many careers ago. Seems like a long time, Bill. Bill Benoist, who is now and has been for some time a career strategist. And Bill, I'm really looking forward to talking with you today because I think so many people, because of COVID, because of being laid off, because people have been furloughed, they're really kind of looking and saying to themselves, what am I going to do, right? Am I in the right career? How do I move up in my career? And I know you specialize in really kind of people, figuring that out, who are already professionals, typically 50 or older, sometimes maybe a little bit younger, to try to figure out kind of, what their next career move is. So for starters, why don't we just talk about what a career strategist is?
Well, thank you, John. Thank you for having me on here. I know this has been a long time coming, and yes, we've known each other for a number of years, and I'm really thrilled to be here. Back in 2009, I did a coaching program. I became a credentialed coach, and I opened up a business, and I was seeing clients part-time at night on the weekends as I was still doing my work in corporate America. And in coaching school, they really kind of teach you that the client has all of the resources and the answers inside of them, and you use these powerful questions to bring it out. But I don't believe that's really the case when it comes to career coaching, because when you're talking about career coaching, you're talking about anything from the resume and formatting and getting it past the applicant tracking system. Some people call them resume robots. Understanding that recruiters will use LinkedIn 90% of the time to find clients out there. So you want to be able to maximize your LinkedIn profile, best ways to answer interview questions. And so an individual may not actually have those resources inside of them. So that's why I call myself a career strategist, because rather than trying to get them out, I'm going to really kind of help them with the ways to address these situations.
Yeah. So let's talk about a career strategist for somebody who wants to move up in an organization, and a career strategist for somebody who wants to figure out, if they need to find a new career and maybe even start their own business. So let's start kind of in the walls of how to move up in an organization. Talk a little bit about, how you help someone in that strategy, with that strategy.
Right. So in that strategy right there, of course, there's not really going to be a resume that is, playing that's instrumental in this, unless the person decides to move up in what I would say corporate America, moving on from the company that they're currently working with. The same with the LinkedIn and even really the interviewing. I think a lot of it starts also with networking with that and knowing the right people. But there's this mantra that I really talk about in my career practice, and it's, I am a professional. I have no problems. I create no problems, and I'm here to solve all of your problems. Sure. And the question that you've asked me, how does somebody move up in their career? And I really think about all of the individuals over the years that I have promoted upwards, and they all fill that spot. I'm sure that you remember, in your position, in corporate America, that there was always people that were creating problems, and there was always individuals that were there, and nobody can solve all of your problems, right. But they were there, that they were the ones that took a step forward and says, well, what about if we do this or we do that? And I think so many people just kind of sit back and they think that the longer they work, the more they're entitled to that next promotion or something. And it has nothing to do with that. I mean, so many of the individuals that I promoted over the years had been there a lot less time than people that have been there, thinking that, oh, okay, well, I deserve this because I've been here the longest.
So what are the proactive characteristics and skill sets that owners of companies are looking for people to really tap into, especially right now when a lot of people are working remotely, Bill?
Well, communication is definitely one of them out there, but the first off, I want to just talk about one little thing here. There was an interesting article in AARP a couple of years ago, and they said that individuals that are 62 years and over, and they're currently still in the workforce, made a significant career change after the age of 55. And I say significant. I'm talking about, let's say, an electrician who became an attorney, a airline attendant who becomes a pharmacist, a author who becomes a sailboat captain. So when somebody comes to me and they say, Bill, take a look at my resume here. I've been doing the same thing for 20 years. I want to do something different. What is it that I can do? I'll sit there and say, it's not really based upon your skills as much as what I would say your passion is. Look at me. I mean, I was in technology for 25 years and now I'm a career coach. That was a significant change.
Yeah.
40% of the workforce out there has that. So I would, when you say, what kind of skills are being looked at right now? The other thing that I want to just kind of point out, interesting, and I actually did a video on this just this past week. If you go to the Santa Clara University Career Center website, there's a statement on there that says 80% of the jobs at 2030 for Generation Z have not even been invented yet. Mm-hmm. So is it the skills that you really need today, or is it your continuous learning? And I think that's really important, especially with individuals that are over the age of 50, because there's one thing about individuals that are in that age range there. They've done some empirical studies, and where they found is that the one negative perception of an older worker that has been validated is that the older worker does not stay up to speed with skills and wanting to go to training and new technology. So yeah. Whatever those skills are, we've got so many online platforms now, Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, a number of them out there. And if you can show that you're staying current in the industry by putting some of these skills on, that's what's really going to sell you to that prospective employer.
Yeah. I think that's so important what you're talking about, and really building your own brand. I mean, I refer a lot of people who come to me and say, hey, I want to switch careers, and you've been, great with them. You've done amazing work with them. And, but you need to build your brand on the social platforms in a professional, good way, so you do get noticed. So I think that's really, really important. And so talk about, the person who's listening right now. What are you seeing? What's common right now with COVID being what it is, as far as people looking at, the type of people that you're coaching right now?
So I will say, and that's a great question, because, number one, there is a stress, there was a stress scale out there that was put together by a couple of psychologists back in the mid 70s, and I can't remember the name of it, but essentially it gave a numerical number for various incidences that would occur during a 1-year period. Like the death of a loved one was like 100 points, and the loss of a job is like 50. And what they've talked about is that the individual that will have 150 points at the end of the year, and there was like 44 different, things that would count as points, including like, the good things like vacations and, birth of a grandchild or whatever. But it can really affect you emotionally and negatively and even physically. And I think one of the things is that the COVID has done, as well as the individuals out there, and number one, the press out there has not been real helpful in the fact that, reporting the unemployment rates. But if you really dig down into the unemployment rates, the professionals out there, the ones with the college degrees and stuff, the unemployment rate is a lot lower than, say, the average. And so when individuals come to me for coaching, this is something that we kind of talk about, because they're already coming with a lot of baggage. And what I mean is, like, I'm over 50. I'm never going to find another job that pays as well as this one, or I'm too old to find another job, or too old to, change. I mean, it's like, there's so much baggage there. And yet when we really get into this and we really start looking at some of the numbers out there, it's just not true. One of the things, I've worked with a couple of career transition companies, do some independent work with them. And one nice thing about the independent or the career transition companies is that they have some researchers, some backroom researchers, and they're able to actually put a lot of statistics together. And it's like 80 some odd, 90% of the individuals that, and I'm talking about people in mid to late career that are landing at better performing jobs, more salary than what they were doing before. And they're actually, moving upwards, but people come in with that baggage, and that's one of the things that, I need to work with.
Yeah. There's so many of, and I was just Googling it, trying to find, but people who did amazing things late in their life. And so, and I think, so many people, I remember hearing, your 20s are for learning, your 30s are for earning, your 40s, your 50s, it just gets better the more you know. And so what you're talking about is, a lot of fear-based type stuff that people have out there. And so once they get over their fear of, I'm too old, there's nothing out there, and they can kind of tap into their best selves and what their unique ability and potential is, and really understand the value that they bring to the table and to a company, or to maybe starting their own, how do you then move them? Because I think that's, phase one and phase two. How do you then move them as a career strategist to actually push beyond their fear?
So once they come into this, if I'm understanding the question correctly, as you're saying, once they understand this, how do we get moving forward with that? A lot of it is going to have to do with now we're getting into the strategies of finding the position, right? And so, it's interesting. Last month, I had these 3 clients. None of them knew each other. 2 of them were product managers, global product managers. One was the CEO of an incubation arm. 2 product managers were making over $400,000 a year. The CEO, his last salary was just at $1 million. The individuals all had one thing in common that they kind of talked to me about. And by the way, they were all in their 50s or over, but they all said pretty much the same thing. And again, they didn't know each other, but they all said they fully believed that their resume was an afterthought, and what they really, the way they were going to get their next job, and they felt very confident that they were going to get their next job, was going to be through their network, right? Yeah. So this is one of the things that, when we talk about the strategy, so what I'm going to work with, and we're talking about this at, let's say, a 5,000 foot level, is maximizing their well, first off, let's just take a look at the resume for just a moment. There is age discrimination out there, but it's often on a perception basis. In other words, there was a large study that was done, published in the Chronicle a couple of years ago, where these researchers, they had some 13,000 fake resumes that were in 3 different groups. And these researchers did something that I would never, ever advise doing, but they had a high school graduation date on the resumes, but they had them in 3 different groups. And so you could look at one group and tell by the dates that the person was between 39 and 41. The second group was between 49 and 51, and the third group was over 62. The group that got the most callbacks for a phone screen were the ones that were in the youngest age group there. So there is age discrimination, but it's actually a perception. So one of the first things that we would do is we take a look at the resume, which again, I've said, previously, that I don't believe it's the most important thing out there, but we're going to make sure that it's age proof. So we're kind of hiding the age. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the LinkedIn. And if you got 90% of recruiters out there that are using LinkedIn to look for candidates, often in the hidden job market, you need to be found by those recruiters. Yeah. And so we go through maximizing. I show the clients essentially how a recruiter will use LinkedIn to find candidates, and then they have a really good understanding of what they need to do with their profile. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into the interviewing. Here's the thing about interviewing. And a lot of individuals that have been, in mid to late career, they've been working for the same company for many years, and they're very nervous about interviewing. I've had some clients that recently from Intel, they worked at Intel for over 30 years. I have one client right now that 38 years at one company. And, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, I say that the average tenure is about 4.6 years, 7 if you're over the age of 45. Here in Silicon Valley, it's probably closer to 2. We don't interview that often, regardless of whether it's 2, 4.6, 7. We don't interview that often. And so I help them with just feeling a lot more comfortable about interviewing, going through, what the most common interview questions are and best practice ways on how to answer those questions. But also to keep in mind 2 things. It's like when you were called, that initial phone screen, it's about validating your competence. And then when you go into the interview or video interview, it becomes more about compatibility and getting in a rapport. And so we talk about how to do that. And then finally, just creating some job search strategies out there and really different ways of networking. One of the things that I found that many individuals at the C-level, they're afraid to network. They're afraid to feel embarrassed or needy out there. And so, help them get around that. But those are all the strategies.
No, I think that's great. And I think a lot of times, Bill, what you're talking about is a lot of times people feel like, well, I shouldn't have to do this because I'm 40, because I'm 50, because I'm this. But you know what? The world has changed. And so you have to do certain things. And so who's your ideal client right now?
My ideal client right now is going to be a professional, will be a professional. They're going to be between what I would say 50 and 62 years old. A lot of them have recently, and these will come into 2 different areas here. They're either tired of what they're doing and they want to make a change. Some of them may want to go into business themselves. Others may just simply want to get out of the company that they're in, and they need some help, some strategies on that. And then the other client are the ones that recently lost their position due to a reorganization or a downsizing. Those are the 2 that I work mostly with, and who I really enjoy working. I'm at a point right now in my career where I get to select the clients that I work with. And so I get really cool, good clients. And you have referred me to some clients that are like, they're just awesome. They're just awesome to work with.
Well, you do a really great, job with them. And it is like those people who are kind of in limbo need somebody who specializes in exactly what you do. Sometimes people will call me and I'll say, well, I'm a business coach. I focus more on the business once you're in the business, but to get you in the business or to change your business, you really need a career strategist. And so you've been great.
Thank
All
you.
right, Bill, you ready for a quick speed round?
I don't know, John. I asked you, when you asked me about this, well, can you tell me what I can expect? And you said, no, we're just going to wing it.
Tell me your favorite book and why.
My favorite book, I just literally finished it about a month ago, was called Breathe by James Nestor. And it was really talking about, it's interesting. I couldn't believe there was how many pages on it, but it was on nasal breathing, but how so many people are breathing wrong and the health benefits of breathing correctly.
Yeah, so important. I agree. Best piece of wisdom you ever received?
The best piece of wisdom I ever received, that one is a little bit more, I think that one's a little bit more tough, but I would say that it's just a matter of, it's almost like going back to that Dr. Spock book where everybody wants to tell you how to raise your child or something like that. And yet you have that ingrained understanding there. And when I got into business, everybody was telling me things that I need to do. You need to be on Instagram. You need to be on Twitter. You need to be on this. And I went with what I felt was the best advice, and it's worked for me.
Yeah, it's great. That's great. I remember when I started my business, and it's been 5.5 years. You worked with me in the beginning also on kind of getting my, a good grounding understanding of a lot of the things that I needed to do. And it was great. It was great. And I'm forever grateful for that. What's the next question? What's the piece of advice that you would give somebody graduating college today who's graduating in just a completely different world than they even thought?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, University of Santa Clara website, they talk about, in the next decade, 80% of the jobs out there having been invented. And I think people, they just need to keep learning, continuously learning there. And just, also, I've had so many clients that have been lost their position unexpectedly because they're downsizing or something like that. You got to keep your skills up. You got to keep your training up. And now we have so many great resources to do that with online training. And those online trainings, they are valuable to when a potential employer sees that on a resume or a LinkedIn profile. They see that very favorably.
Yeah, no, I agree. Bill, tell everybody how to get a hold of you, again, who your ideal clients are, and any contact information that you want to share.
Yeah, so my website is billbenoist.com. I have a website out there, and right there, front and center, is a way to go ahead and reach me. There's a button that you can go ahead and click on, and I do offer discovery sessions out there so we can get to know each other a little bit more. I can explain my the ways that I work and what my packages are, see if we're a fit. I also have a YouTube channel out there under the same name, Bill Benoist. For the last 3 years, I've been uploading career tips and strategies. I've got about 100, in fact, I looked this morning, 156 videos up there and about almost 200,000 views on that channel.
Right.
So it's all career tips and strategies weekly. And then, of course, you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'd be happy to connect with you. All I ask with LinkedIn is make a special note on there and say, hey, I saw you on John Dwoskin's channel and would love to connect. And you got it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Bill, you do great work. I know a lot of people that you've helped and a lot of people that you continue to help. So congratulations on, the success of your business, which has been, when did you start it again?
So I actually opened the practice in 2012 part-time. I was seeing clients at night on the weekends. And then in 2015, I gave my boss, 3 months notice, and I took my practice full-time on August 1st, 2015, and I've never looked back.
It's great. It's great. Well, you're doing great work. I always enjoy talking with you and learning from you.
Same here.
Yeah, thanks for sharing everything. to the Think community, if you're in a transition and need a career strategist, reach out to Bill. He will help you out. Bill, thanks. Think community, appreciate you tuning in, and thanks everybody.
Thank you.